Let your heart be next to mine before the flame goes out tonight. We can live until we die. Come out, come out, come out. Won't you turn my soul into a raging fire? Come out, come out, come out. Won't you turn my soul into a raging fire? Come out, come out, come out. Till we lose control into a raging fire. Into a raging
My total for Thon 2017, Igniting the Hope Within is...
There are still dance marathons happening in the United States. One of the largest is called Thon. It's at Penn State. It started because somebody who's connected to the university had a child who had juvenile cancer. So they started a fund years ago to help that one child. Because somebody took and looked at the suffering of someone else, and rather than try and do something to help themselves survive, which is what it was 3 generations ago, now these kids get out for a long weekend. But they've done a lot of work. They've done a year's worth of work of raising money. This past year, or this past February, they raised $10 million. To date, those kids have raised $150 million for Hershey Medical Center. Part of the money goes towards pure research. Part of the money just goes towards alleviating the needs of these families whose kids are suddenly stricken with cancer. So that when they go to Hershey Medical Center, not a single penny has to be spent out of their own pocket. These kids have done it. I think that's the way faith-based people ought to be looking at the suffering in our world. Instead of looking at I remember that line from the Biloxi Blues. This is hot. This is Africa hot. You know, it's uncomfortable out there. Yeah, I have to deal with whatever I have to deal with. Instead of taking it and looking at our own little pity party, we need to look at the suffering that's around us and be there to offer the hand of Jesus in people's lives. By the way, in my experience, that raises your awareness of how minimal your own suffering is. Well, let's not stop there. Remember, Hebrews 12 comes after Hebrews 11. So you have this long list, and the writer of Hebrews does such a great job of listing all the massive heroes of the Bible that at the end of Hebrews 11, he just starts to pile everybody on. He just creates this great big vat, and he says, well, and then here's all these other people. He just names them. He doesn't go into detail like he does at the beginning of the chapter. And then chapter 12 comes, and here's our problem with reading the Bible with chapters and verses. We forget this is all supposed to flow together. And then this jewel shows up. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us do what? Run with endurance the race that is set before us next year. And what do we do? So here's our problem with suffering. Number one, let your past be the past. Look at somebody else's suffering and put yours in perspective. But just as Paul does in this passage, he says, look to the future. Look at your future glory. But more importantly, let's round it out. The writer of Hebrews helps us out with this. What do? Look to Jesus. The founder and what an important word, perfecter. He did it. He took on human form and he came to this cesspool that we call this world, and he lived among us, and he did it right. Fully human. He didn't have an edge that we don't have. He lived as a human being, and he did it right. The founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the what? Do you really want to put your suffering in perspective? Oh, man, just put that cross right there in front of you. Despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. You got it? You want perspective? You know what? This is a pretty crappy world. And I don't know about you, but when I read the news or when I watch the news, it's no fun. And I get poison ivy. It's a little spot. It will spread. Yeah. But man, somebody great has promised me, just get through this. You remember what Rick Warren said about this? Rick Warren said in his 40 Days of Purpose, he said something so important. This life, compared to eternity, is just a little tiny dot. All you have to do is get through this, and you have eternity. And it's just practice for eternity. So if you can't do this right, then how are you going to handle eternity? I think there's some wisdom there. For I consider our present suffering not worthy of our future glory. Father, I just pray that as we end this service and we gather together right now, we get perspective. Raise us up to be the people you want us to be. Father, may we be compassionate about others' suffering, and may we put our own in perspective. Father, may others look at us and our suffering and say, I wish I could handle it the way they do. I pray, Father, that you give us such a strength and such a wisdom in the midst of this, that others can look at us and just marvel and say, how can they do it without complaining? So, Father, we need your help. We do need to keep our eyes fixed upon your Son, Jesus. And it's so easy for us to get distracted and to get caught up in just the challenges of today. So, Father, we need you to come alongside us. And we're going to try and get out of the way so you can come alongside. You can walk alongside of us. You can gird us up and carry us through. And may we fix our eyes upon your Son. May he be our inspiration. And then teach us, please, Father, teach us to be content in your promises.